One of my favorite steam engines has always been the New York Central Hudson. I remember seeing models of them on Isle of Toy trains and seeing them in videos by Green Frog and Heron Rail Video. I have two in O gauge, but I've always wanted a wooden one, but no brand has made a good one. Lionel put out their own Hudson, but it has this weird large big driving wheel and looks like a Thomas Wood item. For a while this was my only wooden Hudson, and it would sometimes appear on layouts, but it would not because I deemed it ugly. But the idea of making a wooden Hudson or other New York Central engines lingered. I found a listing on eBay recently for a custom wooden Pacific engine. However, said Pacific was in the exact shape and proportion of a Hudson, so I ended up buying it. I realized it was a perfect opportunity for a Hudson, so I got to work and started planning a wooden Hudson. In order to have a matching tender, I began looking at wooden tenders. I decided to choose the Big Boy tender by Choo Choo Track and Toy Co. due to its resemblance to a New York Central Centipede tender, which some Hudsons did have. I called Choo Choo Track and Toy Co. and asked if I could buy an unpainted Big Boy tender, and they kindly allowed me to do so. Now that I had all the pieces, it was time to make the custom. The first thing I did was remove the old letters and numbers from the Pacific, covered over the red number plate with a paint marker, and then made custom decals for it. To make the decals, I used Google Draw and used pictures of real Hudson engines for reference. I plan on doing a future video on how to make decals like this. Once the engine was finished, I began work on the tender. I unscrewed the wheels and painted the tender black. Once that was finished, I reattached the wheels. I then made decals for the tender and put them on. My Hudson was finished. For my first major custom, I think I did a really good job. I want to remind you that a lot of the heavy lifting done for this project was done by the person who made the custom Pacific engine. If I had never found that eBay listing and if they had never made that engine, this project would have never happened. I'd also like to give a massive thank you to Choo Choo Track and Toy Co. for allowing me to get an unpainted Big Boy tender from them. That was a major part of the project, and being able to have a tender like that without having to buy a whole nother Big Boy engine means a lot. Thank you, Choo Choo Track and Toy Co. Now, before this video ends, I do want to bring up something important. As this video is about a New York Central Hudson, I want to make you aware of a common myth about these engines. You have probably heard people online say something along the lines of, "President of the New York Central, Alfred E. Perlman, was an evil man who hated steam engines and scrapped all the New York Central Hudsons. It's all his fault!" This is not true at all. The reality is, Alfred E. Perlman allowed multiple New York Central steam engines to be preserved, such as 3001, which was sold to a railroad for preservation, as well as donating 999 and 2933 to museums. Perlman was actually happy about these steam engines getting preserved, and in 2933's case, gave it to a museum that wasn't even seeking it out. He even attended the events celebrating their preservation. Does this sound like a man who hates steam engines? No, of course not. The real reason the Hudsons were scrapped was simply because when the New York Central withdrew the Hudsons, the New York Central was losing millions of dollars. The scrap value of the engines helped keep the company running. There wasn't some evil plan to scrap them. It was just poor timing. Alfred E. Perlman doesn't deserve to have his legacy ruined because of internet rumors. Angrily blaming this man for something that wasn't his fault won't bring the Hudsons back. What we should remember Perlman for is how he improved the railroads he ran, such as the New York Central, by upgrading equipment and experimenting with new technology and calling out problems in the rail industry. He was a visionary, not a villain. If there's anything I want you to take away from this video, it's these 3 tips. 1. Online railroad forums and social media are not a reliable source. People can lie. Do not believe everything you hear online. 2. Always cite your sources. I cited my sources in the description of the video. 3. If someone says something that sounds untrue, ask for a source. If they can't come up with one, they're likely lying. Keep these tips in mind, so that way when people try to spread misinformation, you won't fall for it. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.
Thank you.